Well, we're getting set to take in round 2 here, Shane, and man, did we have quite a week of games here in round 1. Had a couple surprises. Obviously, one of the big surprises was Fulton and Milledgeville, as Milledgeville completely throttled Fulton in that game in the second half, a game that we thought was going to go back and forth.
And
it did until the second half came along.
Yeah.
Milledgeville obviously running away with that. So, I mean, I think that kind of puts a little silence to some of our track followers on that game.
Yeah. Kind of nice.
It is, isn't it? But a couple other games, you know, you take a look at the schedule. Central A&M down in Moweaqua getting a big win over Red Hill, upsetting Red Hill in the first round.
Totally screwing my bracket.
Yeah, right? I think it messed up a lot of people's brackets. But Madison getting the win over Edwards County.
That didn't happen.
No, it did not. Edwards County won that 7-0. But, you know.
Had it happened, though.
It would have been the first win in Madison history. They didn't get it. Darn it. But a lot of the games, I mean, one of the bigger ones that really surprised me, though, honestly, was the Fisher-Cumberland game.
Yeah.
As Fisher had a Week 9 matchup with Leroy that they completely
got
shellacked in. Leroy obviously getting it paid back to them in the first round of Chicago Orr, but Fisher coming out and beating a Cumberland team that probably was, you know, they were 7-2. They were pretty decent, had a good quarterback, good sized line, but Fisher really took it to them.
That was true toss-up game. I picked Cumberland because, you know, Fisher kind of wet the bed against Leroy, and I thought maybe it'd carry over into the next week, and then, you know, that just wasn't the case, though.
No.
Fisher really took it to him.
It wasn't, but the rest of the games kind of went to cruising fashions as we anticipated. On the 2A side, though, how about GCMS? The Falcons coming away with a 76-6 win over Watseka. It was 70-6 at halftime, by the way.
Yep.
Here's the tough thing, though. It was like 40-0 in the first quarter or something like that. And they had like 6 different running backs carry the ball.
What are you supposed to do? I mean, you're there. You're in the playoffs. I don't really care about scores anymore.
Yeah.
You want to put up 140, you better learn how to stop it.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
They're there to improve and to get to the dance. I mean, I don't care about feelings at this point.
Right. I definitely agree with you there. Another surpriser was Hope in Knoxville, as Knoxville and Hope played very close before Hope finally pulled away by a 3-score margin of victory.
Well, and something we didn't even touch on in 1A. I mean, you know, you had Hope in 2A that's kind of on cruise control, so we thought the same thing with Aurora Christian in 1A. We didn't really touch on that. And that, I mean, those two situations were about the same. You're watching the scoreboard and you're like, oh, all right, there goes some brackets, or this team might now cruise to the state championship.
Right.
You know? Yeah, but, yeah, that kind of surprised me, but, you know, Hope did come back and pull it out, though. We'll see if they rebound this week. Same with the thing with Aurora Christian.
Right. Yeah, they definitely took control after they were up 19-6. Granted, it wasn't the way that you would expect them to win, but they won it. Orion and Fieldcrest, though, a 2-15 seed. Orion, obviously highly rated in 2A all year, had to struggle to a win over Fieldcrest. And it was a 24-21 game. And then on top of that, in the same bracket, they're going to get a rematch with Rockridge because Rockridge upset Clifton Central.
Yeah.
30-28.
That's this 2A bracket that we've been talking about. You don't really know what you're going to have.
And then on the other side of that south bracket, you got Tri-Valley pulling off an upset over Nashville. Yep.
I think a lot of people did.
I picked that one too. I would actually, as far as our brackets go, I would say probably a third of them actually picked Tri-Valley.
Picked this next week as well.
I do have them picked to get to the quarterfinals, and I know another person does as well for sure. You're another one, so it's going to be interesting. And then Chester over Warrensburg Latham.
Yeah, that was a shocker.
Big surprise, and it wasn't even close, 42-20. But we'll get ready to break down our round 2 matchups right now. Our first NUIC matchup that we're going to discuss is going to be Chicago Orr at Lena Winslow. Orr coming in with the 5 seed, Lena Winslow coming in with the 4 seed. Both teams obviously went in round 1 last week to improve their records to 9-1 as Orr beat Leroy 42-6 and Lee Wynn beat Lewiston 64-14. And this is the first meeting between both of these teams, Shane. I really don't expect a lot out of Chicago Orr. This is their only 4th time in the playoffs. It's also last week represented their first playoff victory in school history, while Lena Winslow, on the other hand, got playoff win number 36.
Oh, did they? I've never even heard of Lena Winslow before.
Well, you get that a lot, actually.
Yeah,
it's funny you bring that up.
That's
Lena Winslow?
Well, that's kind of common outside of the Chicago and whatnot. But talked to a few people about Orr, and my consensus is that they have an athletic quarterback who really has a heck of an arm.
But he's young.
Right. Got a ton of athletes to go with it. Their only downfall is going to be their line play. Their quarterback is good outside of the pocket, but the line play, from what I've been able to understand, is pretty poor. It's all going to be about Lena Winslow getting pressure. If they pressure the quarterback, she'll be fine. If the quarterback has all day to sit back there and throw, Lena Winslow might be in a problem because, it's something we've talked about all week and all year, really. That secondary of Lena Winslow is the weak point of the defense. We'll see what happens, though. I'm not really too concerned.
Right, and you got to take a look at history at some point as well. Lena Winslow is making their 11th straight trip to the second round of the playoffs this season, and it's their 16th trip overall. So out of their 25 trips to the playoffs, and being in their 20th consecutive run, they've made 11 straight trips to the second round now as of this year. And let's keep in mind, too, that there's some commonalities here. Orr comes out of the same conference as Harlan. Harlan just got throttled by EPC last week, and Orr beat Harlan 40-0 in the regular season. So,
this isn't going to be a Lewistown repeat.
No.
Lena Winslow's not going to win 55-7. I would put my prediction somewhere about the 55-30 mark, somewhere in there.
Correct. And honestly, I'll even take that a little bit further. That 30 is going to happen, but it's going to happen when more of the subs are starting to come into the game.
So, I fully anticipate some Orr fans, hanging their hat on that.
I don't expect the Orr fans to be in Lena.
But that's something that a lot of people, they look at the box score. Oh, you gave up 34 points.
Honestly, I think that you're going to see as many fans of Orr as we saw in Pecatonica for Madison.
All 10 of them.
Yes. But anyway, I hope that's wrong. I hope
I'd love for some Orr fans to come out there.
Yes, I would like to see.
They're gonna love sitting at that place to watch a game.
I know, right? The worst place to watch a game in the NUIC, Lena Winslow. But it is one of the nicer fields, and I tell you what, Lena Winslow does it up right when it comes playoff time.
Right.
It is an exciting atmosphere, to say the least, as far as what Lena Winslow is come playoff time. And with that, they bring a team that can back it up as well.
Right.
But your pick?
Yeah, Lena Winslow big.
Yeah, I like Lena as well. Big time. Marquette at Dakota. Marquette comes in with the 2 seed. Dakota with the 10 seed. Marquette obviously coming in with that perfect 10-0 mark, while Dakota comes in with the 7-3 mark. Last week, Marquette beat our Orangeville Broncos 41-6, while Dakota ran away with Stockton 48-8. These two teams have a little bit of history. Not a whole lot, obviously, because Marquette doesn't have a lot of playoff history outside of 1984 when they ran to the state championship game and lost. And then they had 2 semifinal runs back in 2015 and 16 as well.
Yep.
Last time these two met was in that 2016 season, where Marquette beat Dakota in the second round 26-20. Dakota is making their 12th trip to the second round now, while Marquette is making their 9th trip to the second round. And obviously this game, Shane, is going to take place in Dakota this time. Last time it happened, also in the second round, it was in Marquette.
Yeah, and there's a lot of holdovers from both teams yet. Both sides, really. They had a lot of sophomores playing then. So, You know, you're going to have some kids that are familiar face to each other. You know, it's kind of interesting. You look at the schedule a little bit, and, you know, Marquette, we've praised them all year, really, at 10-0. I mean, they've been in top 5 of my rankings all year, pretty much, outside of maybe a couple games where they slipped to 6 or something.
Yeah, definitely in the top 6, for sure.
But something that sticks out to me here is obviously strength of schedule. The two don't really compare, in my opinion.
When you start looking at schedule strength, you're right. It definitely tips heavily in favor of Dakota. When you look at playoff history recently with where these two teams have gone with the players that they have coming back,
right,
it tips heavily in favor of Marquette.
Right. And I mean, I would say that 2016 season, that kind of really took a lot of people by surprise for Marquette.
More so 2015.
Right. I mean, that was the year. Who'd they end up losing to in the semis?
They lost to Stark County in the semis, 10-7.
After Marquette keep beating these teams that nobody really anticipated.
They beat Stockton 21-14. Then they beat Orion 14-7.
It was the Orion game that people were all in up.
Yeah, because Orion upset Lena Winslow that year, and Lena Winslow was ranked #1 in state that year.
Yeah. And then the following year, you know, we were sitting there in the quarterfinals watching Marquette and Aquin, and we thought that what was going to happen. And then, you know, Aquin almost wins that game, and should have. They'd had some.
Man, we had a great time partying before the game, though.
Sign me up.
I tell you what, Marquette throws the best tailgates in playoff history.
I will be there early and searching
for anybody and everybody.
Exactly. So. But as far as this game goes, you know, I would be lying if I said that I expected Dakota to beat Stockton the way that they did. They kind of finally put a game together, which really surprised me. Well, I mean, because the talent is there. That's not the problem. It's just they haven't put a full game together yet, and they finally did against Stockton. But you can take that with a grain of salt for what it's worth, because Stockton benefited from playing on the upstate side.
I know I have not made a lot of friends in Dakota this year, but I've also realized that the friends that I haven't made in Dakota are not Dakota originals either. So, with that said, Dakota has started to play more physical over the course of the past 4 weeks.
Yep.
Exactly what we thought that they would be at the beginning of the season. However, against Lena Winslow, the old Dakota showed right back up again after they had come out against EPC and put forth a very hard-fought effort just a week before.
Well, and I think that goes a lot into that scared, quit mentality that they carry. I don't anticipate them being afraid of Marquette, though. For whatever reason, Lena Winslow kind of holds this cloud over Dakota, and they give up a score early, and next thing you know, they kind of, I wouldn't say quit, but it's easier to fall back into that pattern.
You take a look at that, and you're right, but you take a look at where Dakota's been at the beginning of the year, okay? Let's look at the Forreston game.
Yeah.
Where were they? They disappeared.
Right.
Okay? Then they go on a cruise, as they should, until week 7. They need win number 6 against Amboy, and they had to have a fight. And granted, it was sloppy weather. I get that. But you still had to struggle to win against a team that went 3-6. Then you come back the very next week and you put it together. You put out a game against EPC, who is ranked in the top 10 of the Class 2A projections, for one half. Ironically, it was also the worst half of football that EPC has played all year, as far as the first half goes.
Right.
Because they've had some other worse halves at the beginning of the year, but
I would also attribute some of that to Dakota's play. I mean, they played lights out for that.
They did. They brought the mentality. They matched the intensity of EPC in that game. No doubt about it. And they showed what they could be very capable of if they play with that mentality week in and week out. Second half, though, didn't go the way that they should. Granted, you can say player blunders, you can say coaching blunders, doesn't matter. As a team, they failed and failed miserably in the second half as EPC scored 21 unanswered points to win that game. Now, fast forward to Lena Winslow. They didn't score a point until it was already 44-0, not even midway through the third quarter of that game, when they had the subs in.
Yep.
So, for them to blow out Stockton, yeah, it was not something that I was surprised by at all. In fact, it was something that I actually expected to happen. I was not going to go on our forums and say, yeah, Dakota's going to roll Stockton. I was not going to do that.
We've taken some heat from that.
Yeah, because we're from Dakota. But I knew it was going to happen because the disparity between the Northwest and the Upstate is like this. And for those that don't understand that, at
would have
some
been a good
point
coming,
yes, and at some point coming up very soon,
on
our next video, you're going to realize what's going to happen.
And, I mean, but as far as this matchup, to me, it's going to come down to who blinks first. As far as mistakes, if it's a clean game and Dakota shows up, I think it'll be a close game. If you get some mistakes and you give up an early score or two, I mean, this could spiral out of control.
Let's put it this way. If Dakota brings the effort like they did against EPC, it's going to be a ball game. If they bring the effort like they did against Forreston or Lena Winslow, they're as good as done.
And I think that they will tell you that. They know that they have to play, as well as they played against Stockton, they know they have to play better. In my bracket, I have them going to the quarters. I don't have any reason to waver from that after watching them last week. I'll take the Indians at home.
Very good. So last week we were opposite on Dakota and Stockton.
Yep.
I picked Dakota and you picked Stockton. This week you're picking Dakota. I'm picking Marquette because Marquette is going to have the size of a Lena Winslow. They still have speed. They have strength. And when Dakota's gone up against those teams, they've kind of cowered back. Not saying that they're going to, but I've seen it happen too many times that my confidence is in Marquette. But I do agree with you. This is going to be a close game. You're absolutely right. Dakota is not afraid of Marquette. They know what Marquette is. I think it's going to be a great ball game. I just like Marquette in it. Next game is going to be Forreston at Milledgeville. Shane, this features a cross-divisional game as Forreston obviously coming out of the Northwest Conference, Milledgeville out of the upstate side of the conference. Forreston comes in with an 8-2 mark, Milledgeville coming in perfect at 10-0, exactly where we predicted them to be. Amazing how we predict them to be where they're at right now.
Yeah.
But we still get a bunch of heat for it.
That's okay.
Forreston comes in with the 6 seed, Milledgeville the 3 seed. Last week, Forreston beat Hiawatha 48-0. Milledgeville beat Fulton 56-22. This is their first ever meeting in the playoffs. The last time they did meet was back in 2006 in week 2, where Forreston won 34-6. It's rather irrelevant because the kids playing today were 4 or 5 years old, so it doesn't really make much difference. They wouldn't remember the game.
Unless you pick that score for this week.
Yes, that would be something of
relevancy.
Forreston is making their 13th trip to the second round. Milledgeville is making their 12th trip to the second round. So there is a lot of playoff history here. Obviously, a lot of our playoff teams that are remaining, the 5, have a lot of playoff history behind them.
Well, that's generally how it goes. A lot of people think that matchups or seeding just take care of themselves in the playoffs, and that's not necessarily true. We've seen a lot of upsets over the years because you get to the playoffs and it's a different game. First, I'd just like to congratulate Milledgeville, going 9-0 in the upstate and winning their part of the conference. And you're right, they did finish exactly where we picked them. I remember sitting here 11 weeks ago tonight, if not longer, I think it was 11 weeks, and we had it up on the board where we thought they'd be, and Milledgeville was at the top. So, congratulations on that. That's never easy to do regardless of which side you're on.
No, exactly. Going undefeated is excellent.
And we did pick Fulton against Milledgeville, and we've had to serve ourselves for that as well. However, things get a whole heck of a lot more problematic for Milledgeville going forward this week. Because something we have touched on all year, the difference in the conference.
Yes, I agree. There's a huge disparity here. Now, people are asking us why we're not hard on any other schools outside of Milledgeville.
Have they not watched our Dakota films this year?
But furthermore, have you not paid attention to what we've said throughout the course of the season? Milledgeville is exactly where we expect them to be, like we've already stated here. The other problem, too, is, I don't know if you remember correctly, but right around week 5, Forreston had a little thing going on there. That included us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Almost forgot about it.
So, in case you haven't really paid much attention, since week 5, Forreston really hasn't played anybody. Therefore, we haven't really said a whole lot about Forreston. Things have gone silent. At the same time, Forreston's starting to play Forreston-style football.
This is 2017 all over again.
Yes.
In 2016 all over again.
As far as Milledgeville is concerned, yes.
Yeah.
When comparing them to Aquin and Stockton.
Yeah.
So, here it is, and I'm going to lay it out there one time. Lena Winslow beat Milledgeville, this exact same Milledgeville team last year, 49-16 in the second round of the playoffs. It was 42-0 at halftime, which means that a running clock took place as soon as the clock started winding at kickoff in the third quarter. My question is not a lot has changed with Milledgeville from last year to this year, outside of 1 year of growth. The majority of the team is the exact same team as they were just a season ago. What we have here is a Forreston team that, yes, they've lost a lot of talent from last year. And yes, based off their team from last year, they are down, as proven with their 7-2 record, which now stands at 8-2. But Forreston also put together a very strong second half against Lena Winslow, who I don't know if people noticed, is the #1 ranked team in state entering the playoffs. They actually outscored Lena Winslow in the second half of that ball game. Granted, the disparity of the score was 29-0 in favor of Lena until Forreston got on the board, but Forreston came back ready to play once they got through that first part. Against EPC, they didn't really show up. But they showed up against Dakota and gave Dakota a whooping that nobody has given them outside of Lena Winslow. I hate to say this, but you can criticize us for everything that we've said. Between the two of us, we watched every team in the conference this year. Every team. We made it our point to make sure we got every team covered. Therefore, I think we have a lot of knowledge as far as where the disparity is in the northwest of the upstate.
Yeah. Well said. Times like these, you almost watch what you say because God forbid if it doesn't go the way you think it will.
Yeah. There's always that. And I have no problem with that.
Yeah,
at all.
No problem with Milledgeville winning this game.
Prove us wrong. It's not who I'm picking, but prove us wrong.
I agree, and I think that I will take this even one step further. It's been a great year in Milledgeville, and after this year, you're going to see a huge drop off with them. But you know what? You're 10-0. You are technically the seeded favorite of this game, which probably couldn't do you any favors.
Except that you get a home game.
Right. And be prepared because Forreston's coming, and it's going to be ugly.
It is. Why? Because Forreston has more mass, and they have more ass than what Milledgeville has. And you can have all the speed you want, but how many times have we seen speed get shut down?
Well, and I would even argue the fact that Forreston is just as fast.
Exactly. Forreston is very fast on the corners. And because you think you're fast, speed's great. Speed kills. But speed's got to get loose first.
Well, and when your number one, well, I mean, we've talked about this. When your number one back gets how many yards against Orangeville?
27.
On how many carries?
12.
This is a heck of a lot better defensive unit than Orangeville.
How about the fact that they only beat Orangeville by a score?
Right. And a game that kind of...
You want to compare stuff, let's start comparing, which we've already done on our Facebook page.
Yeah, God forbid.
But they're up 50-19 on Aquin. Forreston starts putting in subs. Final score 62-33. They're up 62-20. That's 42 points, folks. That's a running clock at halftime, which means as soon as third quarter kicks off, the clock's rolling. I know the coaching staff at Forreston. I know every single one of them. I guarantee you, 100%, there was not a single starter on the field at the start of third quarter. Final score is 62-34.
Same way with what they did to Hiawatha.
Yes.
Halftime score, final
48
score.
to nothing.
Final
40,
score.
Yeah.
They're not going to run it up on you.
No, Forreston has never ran it up in the Diddick era, and Zick took over, and they haven't run it up under him either, because he's a disciple of Diddick. So, you can sit here and state that Milledgeville's going to win. And if you're a Milledgeville fan, I'm not saying anything bad about that.
Well,
pick your team to win. I get that.
Well, and that's another thing, you know, to touch on all the social stuff that we've experienced this week. It's not personal. I don't hate Milledgeville. I don't hate their team. I don't hate their coaching staff. I don't hate their players. I hate their parents. And I will tell you that about any school we deal with like this.
It is.
Last year it was Aquin. I'm sorry, it was.
And the year before it was Stockton.
And the year before it was Stockton. And every year we have a new team, and every year that's because that's the top of the upstate. They go hand in hand, and it's fine. So, I mean, if you join in and you see this talk, or you're a coach and you see us bashing your team, it's not your team that we're bashing. I would love nothing more than for Milledgeville to win this game.
It'd be awesome.
By all means,
I can take my red and black off and put my orange and black on.
By all means, pull the upset. I'm fine with that. My problem is not personal, but the parents of these kids, not just Milledgeville, I'm saying conference-wide. It goes back to what I ranted about Dakota a few weeks ago. Get the damn snack sign-ups. Let's put on our 10th place ribbons and say, I'm proud of you, boy.
Why is it that you get all the love from Dakota fans and I get all the hate?
That's just the way it works.
But yet you're the one who starts it 100% of the time.
That's just the way it works.
Anyway, this game...
I'm going to put a score on it, even.
I am, too.
I'm going to take...
Because I'm going to stand up for what I believe in, just to say, guess what?
I'm going to go first.
You got it.
Forreston 48-12.
I like Forreston by 4 scores.
7 years ago.
And I think it's going to be 52-20. Our last game of the night takes us to the Class 2A matchup where the EPC Wildcats come in with a 10-0 mark, number 3 seed in the 2A playoffs. They are traveling to Palos Heights to take on Chicago Christian as the 11 seed and a 7-3 mark. Shane, last week EPC beat Chicago Harlan 58-26. Yes, it was 58-26. It was 51-6 at halftime, folks. So don't believe scores. You know, I think you've noticed the theme here over the course of the night. Chicago Christian beat Chicago Collins 41-12. That was a much anticipated win. We saw a lot of people picking Collins though because they just didn't know which way to go with that one, picking the higher seed. Yeah. These two teams do have history though. The last time they met was 1997 when EPC first made the playoffs, and they lost to Chicago Christian 42-7 in the first round. This is the 5th trip to the second round for Chicago Christian. And EPC is making their 10th trip to the second round in their school history.
Tell you what, just to touch base a little bit here, EPC has really had a heck of a season. You know that? They won the conference unexpectedly. I mean, start to finish, took care of business.
They did. Played awesome. Awesome.
Then the brackets come out, and they get the draw that they want. You know, you're at home against Chicago Harlan. Then you start looking forward. You're opposite of Newman, GCMS. You can't see them until the semis. And then you get Chicago Christian and Chicago Collins playing, and you want Christian to win so you can go on the road and take care of business so you're home for an Orient. Seriously, EPC has caught every single break that they have needed to at this point.
One problem. They won't be home for Orient. They're going to go on the road now because Rockridge upset Clifton Central.
That's true. But you get my point.
Yes. And I like their matchup with Orient. Should they stay focused and beat Chicago Christian as they should, as early projections show a 42-6 victory in favor of EPC. However, going to Orient, if they bring the mentality that they can, like they did against Lena Winslow and Forreston back in weeks, 4 and 5?
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, it was 4 and 5. If they can do that, they have a very great shot of getting to the semifinals.
And that's if Orient even takes care of Rockridge at this point.
Correct.
Based on
because they struggled with Fieldcrest, and Rockridge is tough.
And they blew Rockridge out by 30 points earlier.
31-0. Yep.
That's a long time ago.
It is. And Federer is back. When they first played, Federer is out. He's back, but the problem is that Federer is still having struggles with the shoulder, being able to have the ability to throw the ball. So I think he's going to be rather ineffective in the passing game for Rockridge. So I still see Orient as being very heavily favored. Obviously, they're without Logan Lee, their stud tight end and defensive end, who is going to Iowa. But early reports state that he may be able to get back by the semifinals.
We don't know where that is exactly.
Right. Exactly.
That could be one of those quarterfinal, semifinal. That's a week difference. You don't know.
Right. Exactly. But if EPC can bring the dynamic up here and stay focused and not get cocky because they're 10-0 and they want to go out and prove everybody wrong. Go out and prove everybody wrong. Play the game within your ability.
I mean, you can't get to Oregon without taking care of Chicago.
Exactly. You got to take it 1 week at a time.
But realistically, if they lose this game, it'll be a collapse.
It will be. They have no business losing this game this week. And if they get by this week, collectively looking at Orient as the victor of their game with Rockridge, they will go on the road to Orient.
Do yourselves a favor and lose before GCMS embarrasses you.
No. I had that question. I know it is. But I had that question come up today. I get it. No, I do. I totally get that. And you're right. You know, we said that a couple of years ago with Aquin.
Yeah.
Against Forreston.
Yeah,
but win. Because here's the thing. Last year you lost to GCMS 50-14. This year, I still believe it.
They're better than they were last year.
You're not. Even last year, they were not a 50-14 gap differential to GCMS. They were not that big of a difference. Were they going to get beat by GCMS regardless? Yes. But not by that big of a gap. They got snowballed on in a hurry because obviously GCMS scored, 7 touchdowns on 8 plays or something like that? 10 plays? 13 plays?
It was bad.
Yeah. It was a joke. It was a joke. A damn joke. And most of it came down in a breakdown of pass defense because they couldn't stop a simple pass play. And they were getting burnt on coverages that they had no business getting burnt on.
Well, we're a long way from that.
We are.
But, yeah.
Anyway.
It's 2A. It's what we talked about.
It's going to be tough.
Since the brackets came out, this is what we want.
But I like where EPC is trending, is where I'm going with this. And they are trending in a very good direction. Outside of that Dakota game. They cannot show up like they did against Dakota ever again if they want to have a shot at anything. And if they were to somehow get past all of this and make it to the carpet and champagne, I like it. So if they were to make it to the carpet, I like their opportunities at stopping a spread team because it's harder to stop a power run team, which they're going to go up against here with Orion and potentially GCMS, maybe even Sterling Newman.
Nice take on that.
Not saying they're going to get there. I'm just saying I like
hypothetically.
I like where they're trending.
I'll take Jacardier and the points.
I won't take Jacardier.
Are you kidding me? Guy's a stud.
He is. And look,
we're not talking about sophomore Jacardier. We're talking about senior Jacardier.
I understand. I like
Jacardier. Forsyth.
I like Jacardier.
I'll tell you what. If Tuscola, agreed. I'll do you one favor though. If Tuscola happens to make it out of that, then I'll take EPC. Otherwise, Moreau Forsyth, St. Teresa, no way in hell.
Oh no, I like Moreau Forsyth. I really do. I have a lot of respect for Coach Joseph and what he's done down there. You know, but you take a look at what Moreau Forsyth was last year to what they are this year. And granted, I know Ian Benner's a junior quarterback last year. He was only a sophomore. But, you know, you lost DeAndre Gregory. You lost that dynamic. Granted, they're still tough. They're a very tough team. I just think they were better last year than they are this year. And don't get me wrong, I have Moreau Forsyth picked to go to the state championship game over St. Teresa.
And no offense to EPC here by this next comment, but no way in hell at the beginning of the year that I think I'd be talking about them potentially playing in the state championship game in 2A. But they got to get there.
They do. They got a long road.
But I tell you what, these first 2 games have been about as not gifted because you still got to play, but it could not have worked out better if you wanted.
They had a very favorable draw. There's no doubt about that. Between them and Orion, it was very favorable, especially considering the fact that you're not going up against Newman, Hope, and GCMS.
Right.
Especially considering how loaded the 2A bracket is.
And that's another thing that you mentioned. I mean, for whatever reason, God forbid Newman make it out of that top part and line up with them in the semifinals. That's where that's because, like Dakota with Lena Winslow, Newman's sitting right up there in EPC's head.
New coach.
Doesn't matter. Same kids.
Different kids. Maybe same parents. New coach. As long as the parents stay out of the kids' heads, which we see a lot.
Which doesn't happen. I mean, that's a constant. So, but to get back to the point here, EPC big on the road. Got to take them.
Yes, I do like EPC big. I like the dialogue that we just had there. There are a lot of good possibilities. Like I said, EPC is trending very good. They do have to take it one step at a time. They cannot have a blunder like they had in Week 8. They got to get back to where they were Week 4 and 5 with that confidence and that bravado of we're going to prove you wrong type attitude rather than the we're the big deal now because we won the NUIC Northwest. Last time that EPC did that, they got drilled by Newman. So I give you a look into where we see the second round of the playoffs going. We understand not a lot of people are going to agree with us, especially with the Milledgeville and Forreston game. More so the Milledgeville people.
And I think, I was going to say, I think a lot of people actually do agree with us on that. It's just the few that don't. I tell you what, it's been fun, and this is why we do this. We bring content to them. People can either accept it or not, but you know, the interaction that we have with people is what makes this fun. So
it is. I mean, it's one of the things that we obviously set out to do, was to broaden the visual of the NUIC, to get more recognition to it. Obviously, with that, you know, we're going to have people that disagree with what we say. We know that. We know that. We can't make everybody happy. It's not going to happen. But for every one person that doesn't agree with us, we got another 300 sitting behind us that do. So I'm good with that. You know, and it is. It's a lot of fun doing this. And obviously, it's that time of the year where, you know, you start seeing when you get to that win or go home time of the year.
Everybody feels it.
Yeah. You feel the pressure. You feel it. You want to do what you can. You want to believe, and you have to believe if you're part of that team or that organization or whatever. You got to believe, because if you don't, what's the point of having faith? Right. But on our token, we don't have to believe in anything. We're just here to give you the information that we have available to us.
My season isn't done for another 4 weeks.
Exactly. We're going to state either way. We don't care. But what we do care about is we do want the NUIC teams to win. We do want to see an NUIC team at state.
He does. I know.
That's why we're here. I'm kidding. So, it's going to be a great week of games. Obviously, we have Lena Winslow starting at 1 o'clock. Dakota and Marquette starting at 2 o'clock. Forreston and Milledgeville starting at 3 o'clock. And then EPC starting at 3:30. All games are local, as Lena's at home, Dakota's at home, Forreston and Milledgeville will be in Milledgeville, and then EPC is in Lanark. So,
and another possible scenario, looking at next week, if EPC and Rockridge meet, that should be in Lanark, I would assume, right?
EPC and Rockridge would be in Lanark.
EPC Oregon on the road. Forreston against Marquette would be in Marquette. Dakota versus Forreston would be in Forreston, and Lena Winslow will be most likely on the road.
Lena Winslow will be on the road either way.
Or Aurora. So this will probably be the last week for a couple weeks before we have some local games.
Wait, did you mention Milledgeville?
There's no need.
So if Milledgeville were to win,
they're on the road.
Milledgeville will be on the road regardless.
Yeah.
At Marquette or Dakota.
So we might have a, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't really.
No. It wouldn't be at Dakota.
Yes,
it would. It would. So yeah, Milledgeville's going to be on the road either way. Marquette or Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, like you said, just had to throw it out there.
Right.
So, get out to the games. Cheer on your teams. For the love of God, that's all we ask for you. We understand. We really do. As always, root for the NUIC.